Today we're here in Connecticut, about an hour outside of New York City, to talk to a man who's a collector of many things. He collects furniture, cars, and of course watches. He's also the CEO of Design Within Reach. His name is John Edelman, and today we're talking watches. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It's really good to see you, and I'm glad we could sit down and talk about your collection. If you could just start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and how you got interested in watches.
Currently, I'm the CEO of Design Within Reach, but the passion for watches started a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I think they started maybe when I was 12 years old or 13, and my father had come back from Italy, and he gave me a prized watch, which was the ladies' version of the Porsche watch, the classic Porsche watch. I'm pretty sure since my dad gave it to me, it was a knockoff he bought in the street, but I loved it just the same. And years later, maybe I was 14, one of his good friends came over and he had the coolest car in the whole world, a vintage 280 SE 3.5 convertible Mercedes that I loved. And he traded me his real Porsche watch for the ladies' version for his wife. And that was probably the first watch that got me a little nutty. I love the simplicity of that design. And that got me a little bit focused on chronographs and the way they put all the pieces together to give an aesthetically pleasing outcome, because they have a lot more things to play with. That symmetry, the way they lay things, the way they lay the colors in, the way the second hand moves, where the counters are, right? I think that's just so cool. So I wore that watch all through high school. I believe I wore it all through college. And when I graduated college, I was supposed to go to Europe for a couple days. I think I was actually supposed to go for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think everybody was surprised I actually graduated college, so the trip wasn't necessarily planned. And I went to go work for my brother in the shoe business. My brother's called Sam Edelman. He has a famous shoe line. I started working right away. I was going to Brazil, going to China, and I never got that trip. About a year later, I was like, Pops, I don't think I can take that trip, but I love your watch. And he took it off his wrist, and he gave me the Daytona, the pre-Cosmograph Daytona, which I didn't know at the time that it was like a holy grail type of watch. And I wore this watch every day for at least 10 years. When I left the shoe business, I got a little bit maniacal about collecting. So I started going to the flea markets to learn furniture because I was going into the leather business with my family, Edelman Leather. So I go to the 26th Street Flea Market on Sunday morning, and while I was buying furniture, the only other thing that caught my eye were watches. And there was these Russian guys that used to sell watches in tubs. You know, it was like $5 for this, $10 for that.
The old school days.
Old school days, I loved it. So in a tub, I pulled out the Bulova. And, you know, this is not what you call a fancy watch, but I love the orange, right? I love the way everything works. And I fell in love with the shape of the watch. And I wore this watch every day for a bunch of years. Then I was shopping and being in the design world, I'm a huge fan of Mark Newson. He was a client of the leather company. I was there when he first launched his stainless steel airplane chaise in England many years ago. And I found this watch, pushers intact, you know, the window in the back. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
So something like that you just have to have.
How do you think that watch kind of, you know, interplays with Mark's other designs? What about that watch to you is just like quintessential Mark Newson?
When I talk about modern and what the definition of modern is, he hit it, right? You have the date, you have the registers, you have red in the pushers because you need red in the pushers. Not because he did it for the color, you have to find it quickly. I think that's really, really cool. It's a very special watch. The pushers here are what got me crazy.
Yeah.
The pushers, half one color, half the other. Everything worked. It reminds me almost of the original Porsche watch in some ways, in scale and the black face.
Yeah.
But you know, I wear that all the time.
Yeah. These Omega Flightmasters are one of those watches. They came in a bunch of different variations, and finding them original with everything intact is so hard that when you find one, you kind of have to jump on it.
I had never even seen it before. Like, I just didn't know. But I knew it was cool.
Do you wear that watch a lot?
Not a lot.
It's kind of a tough watch to wear.
It's a big watch to wear.
It's...
If you put it on your week on the wrist segment, they'd let it go after a week. On that note, I was inspired by that segment.
Okay.
And I started wearing all my watches for a week. So I took this Seiko Turtle out for a week, and it lasted like 3 weeks. I couldn't take it off. I love the way this line comes up over the pusher and protects it. I love the scale of it, and it's a Seiko, right? Like, that's the best thing about it.
Right.
Is it's a fantastic Seiko. Anybody can fix it. My wife gave me this watch.
And this is an IWC Pilot's chronograph.
Exactly. And it's kind of perfect. There's nothing gratuitous. It's aesthetically pleasing, and it functions at a high level. That's how I describe modern in my business.
And you were saying that you wear this as a black tie watch?
Where's a black tie watch and
That's
things
cool.
like that?
Yeah, I mean, your collection focuses really on sport watches. So is there something about sport watches versus dress watches that you just find more compelling or more interesting?
I rarely wear a suit. I've gone to wearing like super comfortable shoes, sneaker-esque shoes. I wear a blazer, and I think this goes with my uniform, right? I mean, I think I'm not a delicate guy. I try to be approachable, and I think that these types of watches allow that. And plus, I'm a salesman, I'm outgoing, and they also start a conversation. Like you wear this orange Seiko on your wrist, and someone's gonna make a comment. Oh gee,
Yeah.
like where'd that come from? What kind of watch is that? When you tell them it's a Seiko, they can't believe it. They didn't know they made those gorgeous designs. I do think watches should serve a purpose. So I went to racing school,
Okay.
and I wore my Rolex Daytona. And I thought I'd be the coolest guy wearing my Rolex Daytona, except for the instructors were wearing them too, and they had won them.
That kind of puts you in your place, right?
One step back.
Yeah.
But the Seiko driving watch is slanted. So when you're driving a car, you don't have to turn your wrist, you can just see
Yeah.
the time. I love the bullhead, anything with a bullhead, and then you have that beautiful kind of teal blue on the inside.
Yeah, these are really beautiful. And this one with the bracelet with kind of the textured center links, it's so late 60s, early 70s.
Searched for
It's-
2 years, to find a band like that.
Wow. You're really about putting that package back together. And I mean, you even have this period box, and you were saying that you have, sometimes you find boxes before you find watches.
Yeah, well, I knew I was gonna start collecting more Seikos, and I found a case of new old stock Seiko boxes. And anything that looks like this, if it's in my brand circle, for the Breitling, I have this beautiful wood Breitling box. Comes in a yellow out box. It's a little overkill, but I love it. Purposeful watches. So with weekends, I wear this big Panerai, but it's made for going in the pool. It's made for going in the ocean. It's an Italian Navy watch.
Right.
It should not be babied.
At the same time, though, the dials of these are so clean, they're so legible. There's something
Yes.
really kind of modern with a capital M.
I don't need my
about them.
glasses to tell time, okay?
Okay.
This is very, very clear. There's no phone near me when I'm wearing this watch, which is a rare occurrence. It just makes me happy.
We talked about your original Daytona, the Daytona from your father,
Yeah.
but there are two other Daytonas here. So the one from your father is the reference 6263 with the
Yeah.
screw down pushers, the black bezel. We also have kind of the opposite vintage Daytona, I guess, here, with a 6239 here with the pump pushers, steel bezel.
I'm always shopping estate sales and things like that online. This lady's been sending me her relatively boring ads for years. And finally, she said, I found this Daytona, I don't know what to do with it. I said, I have a really good idea what you can do with it, sell it to me.
Okay.
So I met up and I bought this watch from her, not knowing that it's my birth year Rolex, which makes it so that it's not as important as the one from my dad, but it becomes an important watch to me.
Right. And then we have another Daytona. I think I recognize that strap, but
Well, this is when I started to fall in love with you guys. I bought the strap, and I wanted to do was make this watch more casual. The newer Daytonas, with the metal band, become a little shiny and a little bit of a statement. And when it's like this, it's just your cool watch.
what is it about the Daytona that you love so much? What about it kind of like speaks to you?
There's few watches, when you put them on, you can just stare at it. It's perfect.
Do you remember, seeing your father wearing this as a kid and having that kind of like inspire your love of watches?
My father did a special spread in the New York Times. It was fashion of the times, and they used to always bring in an older gentleman. And what was special about his shoot was they used mostly his own clothes. And in every picture with all those Savile Row suits and all his cool stuff with the dog next to him, this and that, he wore this watch. And he was a cool guy, and he wore the coolest watch.
So we've talked about the Daytona as a racing watch, but you have another racing watch here that's very different. So you have the Autodromo Prototipo Vic Elford limited edition.
I saw it on Hodinkee.
Okay.
I kind of love everything about it, and I love the vintage band. I got a little bit of made fun of sometimes wearing these bands. I have it on a few watches. I love it. I gave my friend's son one for his 21st birthday, a different version, and he wears it all the time. It's a coveted possession. I justify my sickness. I believe I'll never lose money on these watches.
Right.
I just won't. Same thing with the furniture. If you buy a Saarinen table, an Eames lounge and ottoman, or any of the products from our store, they're worth more in 10 years, not less. When you buy something with no romantic backstory, that isn't made in the right place at the right time by the right people, they go away. It's a big difference. Great design always has a value. The second you go from great to secondary, it's a different world. I gave you the definition of modern, right? Aesthetically beautiful, no superfluous design, high functionality, and no ego in the design. When you make something that's perfect, something that's just beautiful, that functions, that you want to look at all day long like that Rolex, that can sell and be in someone's home for 100 years, that's modern. Modern can be sold 100 years ago or in 100 years, right? So if you think of, the Eames molded plywood chair being done in like 1947, that's another world.
Yeah.
Must have freaked people out, but they bought it then, and it will sell in the next 50 to 100 years. Great watch design is the same thing. A great watch is great forever. These things will be cool forever. If I can design a better table than this, I'll be in a museum.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to do. This is perfect. This chair is perfect. This is perfect.